So guys, the Msta Artillery, the 2S19 was leaked in two of the leaks that we had today and during this week, right? So I wanted to do a very quick video on what should you expect from the 2S19 Msta-S that is coming to War Thunder, maybe, if the leaks are correct, of course, which they probably are, but still. So, what is the Msta? What should you expect? Well, the first thing is that it is a self-propelled howitzer, in this case with the S model, self-propelled, okay? So it has basically a way of driving itself, of course. That's why it's being added to the game, right? So it's a tank with an artillery piece, just like we already have multiple systems like this in the game, right? It was made in the Soviet Union, and of course, up to this day in Russia, it is still in service, and it is used in many other armies, you know, Ukraine, Venezuela, Georgia, Ethiopia, Azerbaijan, so Belarus as well, used some in 2023. But yeah, basically this tank was using a very weird mashup of a chassis between the T80 kind of running gear, so suspension, brakes, everything is from a T80 with a different exhaust system and everything, and a T72's engine, so it uses the V84, right? And it has less armor, obviously, but it is still based on that. Of course, it has a turret that it's big enough to carry the gun itself, which is 150 millimeter, apparently 152, something like that. So it's a very, very big gun. I think it's 152, right? And it's just incredible. Like, it's very long range. It's somewhat fast, you know, for a vehicle that is this size and weight, of course. Yeah, it's 42 tons, so it's somewhat light for a tank this size. And yeah, it's an incredible tank. Initially, of course, uses an older gun. We're gonna talk about the versions and stuff, but yeah, let's just talk one thing before we talk about it, the armor, right? The armor is something that it's kind of interesting because apparently I couldn't confirm if the hull had any composites. I don't think so. What I could actually confirm is that it has around 15 millimeters of armor all around. Some areas maybe it's a little bit higher and stuff, but the thing is, it will basically die for anything that it's not a small arms fire, right? So anything like above 30 cal, maybe it can hold a 50 cal, I don't know, but it's not gonna be too much after that, you know. So very low armor and quite big, so it's gonna be very easy to kill this tank, obviously, just like any other artillery, right? Self-propelled artilleries, they do have a little bit of protection to defend from, you know, normal small arm fires, but not from a tank gun or anything like that, right? And what about the gun? Well, the gun is pretty interesting. Like I said, it's a 152 millimeter. The baseline kind of range that this thing had was basically 29 kilometers. Normal it was 24 actually, but some other rounds could do 29, and with a rocket propelled shell, it could do 36. Okay, he has the NSVT, anti-aircraft machine gun, of course, and yeah, he could fire around 8 rounds per minute, which means 7.5, maybe a little bit more seconds of a reload. Okay, this is the original version. Okay, so it's gonna be 80s technology. I would say that probably has some form of laser system to get the range, I would imagine. I couldn't confirm that, but I hope so. But anyway, that would be the 80s version, right? But apparently, according to the leaks, we are getting modernized versions out of this. So the first one would be the M1 version, which is basically the first deliveries were made in 2007, so it's pretty modern. The main two differences here would be that it has a GLONASS antenna, you know, so a GLONASS navigation system, and a better engine. So this would probably be the normal version that we're gonna get, just, you know, a better version than the original 80s one, but everything else would be probably the same, you know, round-wise, gun, everything. And then the cool one, which is the M2. This is the one that is the most modern one. that we would receive if the leak is correct, right? This version would be improved in many little things. Like, for example, it has a new automatic fire control system, which can be used to fire rounds with a cadence of fire of 6 seconds per shot, right? So it means around 10 rounds per minute, so a lot faster than the original one. Also, not that it's really useful in the game, you would have many other inside the tank systems to have digital maps and all sorts of navigation aids to be able to do their mission, you know, in a better way. And of course, it has a new 2A79 152mm gun. So it has improved ballistics. It can fire ammunitions with more propellant charges, with a higher breech pressure than before. The gun was longer, heavier barrel, and with that in mind, it could increase the range to 30 kilometers in the normal HE frag rounds and 40 kilometers with the rocket-assisted shells, right? So it would be pretty interesting because of that, right? We would have very, very substantial amount of range. Not that you're gonna use this, but it is still very cool to be able to do this. A 40-kilometer shot with a shell, that's incredible, right? This is the one that I think it's gonna be the higher BR. Not gonna be too high, I don't think, mainly because of the armor, of course. So what you should expect is something very similar to the artilleries that we already have. I mean, it's a 152mm, so it's a very big gun, of course. So with its you know, HE rounds, it will penetrate a lot. And it will probably be better if it has the laser, you know, rangefinder. I would probably say that it will have a higher BR just because of that, right? But it's not gonna be too high. I don't think it's gonna be past like 8.0. It's gonna be 7 point something, in my opinion. I doubt that it will be too high out of that. And who can get it? Well, mainly the Russians, unless it's added as a like an event or premium for somebody else, as Ukraine or I don't know, but even then it wouldn't make a lot of sense, I think. So yeah, the Russians are probably the ones that are going to be using the most the Msta. Okay, it's probably the most advanced artillery that we were gonna ever have, technically, in the terms of the general model for the Russians. So it is pretty interesting, right? I know it's just an artillery, but a lot of people like this thing. The only thing is that although it is the successor of the Akatia, it is still having the same trouble. So for the game, in-game purposes, of course, it will have low armor and it will be kind of hard to use because of that. You have to be careful. I don't like too much of these tanks because I think they are too large for the game. You know, they're too large and they're very easily killable, right? So yeah, but anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about the Msta. I think it's gonna be a cool artillery if it's added. I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and bye guys, see ya.